In this video, I want to share with you 5 important tips and more on how you can be a man of courage going through difficult and tough times in your life. And we're starting right now. Praise the Lord, everyone. Welcome to Man Talk Live. I'm your host, Walter Strong, where we share helpful tips to inspire men like yourself to raise the standard of manhood in your life so that you can be a great husband, a devoted father, and a man of integrity. And so, as we said this morning, we're going to get into some important tips, maybe hit about close to 3 to 5 tips on how to be a man of courage when going through tough and difficult times in your life. And so if you're new here this morning, let me know in the chat where you're watching me from. Give me a hashtag Team Live in the chat. If you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag Team Replay in the comments section. And so before I get into this content right quick, let me just check my settings to make sure my audio is right. Okay, perfect. We got that right. That's set for the mic. And we got the speaker. Make sure the speaker is set up. Okay, perfect. We have the audio set up perfect. Just want to make sure the audio was coming clear. If you are hearing some audio distortion or anything, let me know in the chat that you're watching me live. And so we get into this topic on being a man of courage. I think it's so important in these times that we have courage in our life. As men, we are asked to answer the call to many things. We're asked to answer the call to service, to serve our country. We're asked to answer the call um, to the call to manhood. But very seldom, sometimes, as men, are we willing to step up and answer the call to courage, the call to courage. And the reason why I say that, if you go on YouTube and you type in the title, "The Man with the Red Bandana," um, the call to courage, you will find a documentary regarding a man who passed away back on September 9/11. September 9/11, who 9/11, I'm sorry, not September 11th, who passed away during, unfortunately, the tragic towers collapsing because of the attack on our country, where the planes end up crashing into both of the towers. But in one of the particular towers, his office oversaw the Manhattan skyline and the water, and he had been working for a particular company down there in the towers, in the Twin Towers. And before 9/11, he had been contemplating about wanting to change his career into becoming a firefighter. He wanted to become a firefighter. It had always been his life's dream and passion, but you grow up, you go to school, you go to college, you get a degree, and then you end up getting a job. And so over the last few years of his life, he had really been contemplating a career change. He just felt like he wasn't happy. He felt like he was not following his passion in life, and he had determined that what he was really called to do, what he felt like what his purpose in life was to do, was to be a New York firefighter. And so he began to put steps in motion to prepare to make that transition and begin to seek out the things that he needed to do. On that unfortunate fateful morning, um as we know, that the plane hit one tower and then another plane. But because he did some training in preparation to become a firefighter, that training kicked in, and he opened his drawer and he grabbed a red bandana and he put it around his head, symbolizing almost like a firefighter's helmet. and he began to jump into action and to tend to those that were wounded as a result of the plane hitting the towers. And he began to give instructions to people. I think he was on maybe the 83rd or 85th floor when the towers hit. And so it was a long journey down, and he began to help those that were injured and those that were not, to give instruction on how to get down from that floor, um, so that they could get to safety. By the time he got everyone down to a certain level, the New York firefighters met him, and they were able to take those individuals and take them to safety. But knowing that there were still individuals still up there, he informed the firefighters, and he and the firefighters went back up there again and brought more individuals down. And for what the documentary tells us is that he did this about maybe 3 to 4 times. On his last time that he went up there, along with the New York firefighters, and I think he got all the way down to the ground level with the firefighters. He went back up to the 83rd, 85th floor, I believe, and that's when the towers collapsed. And he ended up and the rest of the New York firefighters and first responders that were trapped in that building died. And as a result, a documentary was made about his heroism and wanting to save people's life, and him answering the call to courage. And so that lesson to us is a couple of things. Number one, it's important for us as men to have the courage to follow our passion in life, follow our call and our purpose in life, that what we truly believe God has placed in us to do as men. I truly believe that there is a difference between having a job and following your purpose. There is a difference between having a career and walking in your purpose. And this gentleman, he understood that. He had a job, he had a career, but he had determined he was not walking in his purpose. And walking in his purpose meant answering the call to be a man of courage. And he answered that call a long time before September 11th. He answered that call when he began to make the steps to begin to seek out the training that he needed to become a New York firefighter. And sometimes us as men, when we are on a particular job and a particular career, that we truly feel that we this is not it. This doesn't give us a sense of purpose and fulfillment. We're making maybe a lot of money, quite a bit of money on this job. It may gives us titles and positions um, of influence, and we have a department that of people that we may be responsible for. However, we're not fulfilled. We are not walking in our true purpose and calling that we feel God has placed on the inside of us. And that takes courage to do that. And that's what this documentary shares with us. If you go, as I said, if you go on YouTube, The Man with the Red Bandana, The Call to Courage, it shares his life. A few years later, he would be honored as an official New York firefighter, though he had never end up accepting a position, but he was end up being recognized. He was recognized as one of the first responders as a New York firefighter who died in the Twin Tower tragedy. And so I share that story. I share that lesson as the groundwork for to this morning's discussion on the call to courage. Um, those of you who are watching me this morning, let me know in the chat. where you're watching me from, and put in the chat, do you get up every morning and do you just go to a job or career, or are you walking in purpose? Are you walking in purpose? Just put in the chat, walking in purpose or going to a job. Walking in purpose or going to a job. It takes courage to do that. And it takes planning. It's not just something you can just jump up and do and just, you know, submit 2 weeks notice and then leave your job or change careers. It takes some planning. It takes some time before you do something like that. Okay. So in no way am I trying to encourage you when you hear this discussion this morning that you should, okay, make preparation and just begin to leave your job, or the courage now to relocate and leave one city or state and go to another city or state. It takes planning. It takes some time and process before you make a major life decision like that. But you can't allow fear to stop you. You can't allow difficult and tough situations that you may see that are not working in your favor at that moment and stop you. If I go back to the story of the man with the red bandana, he could have easily made the decision based on the training that he had received so far as a firefighter, begin to exit the floor of the twin towers that he was on and got himself to safety and left others behind. But he didn't. He answered the call to courage to see and to help others get to safety, help others that were wounded to get tended to, and put them in a place until help could arrive. That took courage. When you look at your life today, whether male or female, who's watching me this morning, what's going on in your life that's requiring you to answer the call to courage? What's going on in your life? Is it regarding relationships within your family, with your children, with your spouse? Is it regarding your finances? Is it regarding a major career decision where you are contemplating and changing a career? And not just going from one job or career to the next, but you're doing it because you know this is in line with purpose. You are not just getting up every morning just to earn a paycheck, but you are getting up every morning not just to make a paycheck, but you are getting up every morning because this is part of purpose in life for you. So let me know. Let me know. You know, I think about the late Dr. Edwin Lewis Cole, um, who was the leader and the founder of the Christian Men's Network. And he launched that organization to reach men with the message that manhood and Christlikeness were synonymous. And some of the ways he communicated that message was through books that he wrote. He communicated that message through conferences that he held, and places and churches that he went to meet with men. Some of the books that he wrote that are still around today that encourage us as men is the most popular book is Maximizing Manhood. Another important book that he wrote was called Real Men. A third book that he wrote was called Strong Men in Tough Times. But another book that he wrote, which focuses on our subject matter today, is Courage. Courage. That we as men need to have courage. Courage for what? First of all, to be a man of God and to have a relationship with God takes courage. It takes courage to do that. To be a man who's going to be married and be committed to one woman in your life, and to be a father and to your children, that takes courage. That takes courage. especially in these tough and difficult times, these uncertain times that we're living in. It takes courage to do this. I'm reminded of a scripture in Joshua chapter 1, verse 9, that God is speaking to Joshua after and giving him the instructions that it was time to move the children of Israel into the promised land. They had for 40 years been wandering in the wilderness. And now, after the previous generation had passed away, and they were mourning the death of Moses for the last 40 days, he said, it is time for them to rise up and to move forward into the promised land. Now, in the promised lands were enemies. They were inhabitants of that land. But in verse 9, God tells Joshua, have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Have I not commanded you? It we have to we have to look at that as, if God has given us a directive, he's given us a commandment, we have to be willing to be obedient despite the opposition that may be before us. We have to have the courage, understanding, and knowing that he's given us and equipped us with everything we need to do that, what he's called me and you to do. And so, am I saying God has called you to be a pastor? Am I saying God has called you to stand behind a pulpit and to preach? No, I'm saying God has given you the commandment to be a great husband. He's given you the commandment not to be a mediocre husband, not to be an ordinary father, but a devoted father. He's given you the commandment to be strong and of good courage, to be a man of your word and not compromise and have integrity. When we live in a world where people don't value the core value of something like keeping your word in integrity, when you see people taking shortcuts and people willing to compromise to get to the end result that they want at the expense of someone else, even if it means that they suffer as a result of what they're trying to get. It takes courage to have integrity. The question that I have for you, are you walking in as a man of courage? Are you walking as a man of courage in your responsibilities? Because God has already given and equipped me and you what he's called me and you to do, whether if it's to be a man and you're single and you don't have responsibilities or a family, or if you are a family man. There is the challenge of manhood and being a father when your career is put before you and your family is put before you. If you're working for a company that tries to tell you that your job becomes more important than your family because of projects and deadlines, it takes courage to be able to say, no, God comes first in my life, then my family, then my career, because my career is tied with my purpose in life. But it takes courage to do that. It takes courage. And so, as a man, I want you to look at your life today. As a woman who has a special man in your life, I want you to look at the areas where you see that special man in your life maybe having some challenges and some struggles and difficulties, and how you can encourage him to be a man of courage. One of the 5 pillars of manhood that I believe God has called me and you as men to walk in is to learn how to lead courageously. God has called me and you to reject passivity, to engage with God and engage with family, to accept responsibility, and to lead courageously. To be able to lead courageously. How do I lead? Do I lead by just, by word only, but my actions are completely different? No. You lead by example. You lead by serving. You don't lead by title or position because you say, I'm the leader. You follow me. You do what I say because I'm the leader. You lead by example. You lead by serving. You lead by humility. You lead by helping to elevate and improve the quality of life for others. That's what the man in the red bandana did. Though he knew he was facing some difficult and challenging situations that ultimately he could end up losing his life. But many people end up surviving 9/11 because of him. They end up getting rescued by the first responders and the firefighters and exiting that building. And as the documentary shares with us, he was successful in getting all the way to the ground floor of the Twin Towers. And he could have easily exited the building because he wasn't a New York firefighter. Though he had the training as one, he had not yet taken the test to be certified as a New York fighter, but he had the courage. He felt there was a call that he needed to answer as a man, even if it would cost his life. He went back into the building with the rest of the New York firefighters and first responders and ultimately ended up losing his life after the building collapsed. A man of courage. A man of courage. It takes courage when we're going through tough and difficult situations in our life not to quit. Not to quit because we realize there are people depending upon us. There are family members depending upon their life, their safety depends on me and you not letting go of the wheel and not quitting. I like the example in the opening scene of the movie Courageous, where a gentleman is at a gas station getting some gas for his vehicle, his truck. And after pumping the gas, he looks to get a window squeegee so that way he can clean the windshield, front windshield of his truck. But he realizes that there is no windshield wiper fluid in the container with the squeegee. So it would now requires him to go to the other part of the gas station across from his vehicle to get another squeegee that has the proper windshield wiper fluid. Now, unbeknownst to him, he is not aware that during the whole time that he was pumping his gas, there was a person watching him, seeking an opening to carjack and to steal his vehicle. And so as he goes to get the windshield wiper fluid for his vehicle, the gentleman sprints, jumps into the truck, takes off with the truck, and the gentleman now takes pursuit of the vehicle. Now you say, well, why would he do that? If you've never seen the movie Courageous, spoiler alert for you, just for the opening part. Why would he do that? He begins to gain and catch up with the vehicle before it accelerates, and he grabs hold of the steering wheel and he begins to battle and to punch and fight back and forth with the man trying to grab control of the vehicle to make it stop. Now, the vehicle is now starting to accelerate and oncoming traffic is coming towards the vehicle. And if he falls off, he can end up risking and end up getting hurt or losing his life and getting killed. But he has the courage to hold on. And so he's successful and grabbing control of the vehicle, making the vehicle crash and go to off to the side of the road. And I believe it crashed into a tree, and he's kind of thrown him from the impact and kind of hurt a little. But he begins to make his way to the vehicle. The gentleman has already exited the vehicle. There was another vehicle following behind them. He jumps into that vehicle and he takes off. But the gentleman makes his way to the vehicle. Onlookers who saw the whole thing are trying to convince him to stay put until medical attention can come, but he is determined. He's determined to get to not just the vehicle, not just to the front part of the vehicle, but the back part of the vehicle. And when he gets to the back part of the vehicle, he opens the door, and who does he find? His little son in a car seat. It took courage for him. Took courage for him to be able to do that, what he needed to do, because his son's safety and life depended upon. Who's depending upon you to stay as a man? Who's depending upon you to be a man of courage this morning? I'll let you think about that. Hey, if you're getting great value out of this discussion this morning here on tips on how to be a man of courage in your life, though you are facing tough and difficult times, do me a favor, click that like button for me, hit that thumbs up, share this on your favorite social media platform that you are on the most to encourage someone that God has called them to be a man of courage. So as we continue on, as you can see, I don't have a presentation this morning prepared. Normally, when we do our live streams, we do these Man Talk Lives, we have presentations, bullet points. But today I just felt just wanting to just kind of share from my heart and to share from just experience and to share from what I'm passionate about on this topic on being a man of courage, living a life of courage. It's so important. Again, I go back to this to Joshua in Joshua chapter 1, verse 9, where God says, "Have I not commanded you?" That command, him being the leader, who the man who would succeed Moses, who had led the children of Israel out of Egypt, through the Red Sea, or through the wilderness, and to the footsteps of the promised land. And because he ended up passing and not being able to enter into the promised land. And that's another topic and discussion for another day. God had already put Joshua in place to succeed Moses. And though Moses had passed away, God understood that the children would need a period and a time of mourning to get over their grief and their loss to move forward. It takes courage. Even if you are in a season of mourning, even if you're in a season of going through grief and loss because someone that you look to has now transitioned and gone home to be with the Lord. And now the mantle of responsibility is now on your shoulders. It takes courage to do that, to move forward, because you have other people depending upon you. You know that there is oppositions and threats and challenges before you, and you have to encourage them to know that they can overcome these challenges, not in their own strength, not in their own abilities, but through the strength of the Lord. Knowing that because God is for us, who can be against us? Knowing that God is with you, he is for you, and he is in you. And if God is for us, then what can be against us? And so communicating that message to the children of Israel as they would go into the promised land, crossing over the Jordan River. This is your Bible homework. Go read the book of Joshua. Read the book of Joshua. It's a book that talks about how God has given us great and precious promises and that he wants to fulfill them because these promises were given to us, not just us, but to generations before us. And now we being the generation, we being the men who have the responsibility to walk in those promises, to possess those promises. There was a group of men from the tribe of Gad, Reuben, and the tribe of Manasseh who would be the frontline warriors who would go into battle to advance to help the children of Israel to take possession of the promised land. These men could have easily said, hey, I would rather just be with family. I would rather be with my possessions that's on the other side of the Jordan versus having to be put in that position to lead. But no, they answered the call to serve. They answered the call to courage. What about you? What about you? Or are you a content creator who's just so focused on just creating your next video so you can get more views, more likes, more growth of your channel, but yet you're neglecting to answer the call to courage? Because if YouTube is not a full-time career for you and you have a job or career that you go to, but yet you know you're not fulfilled, don't allow the pursuit of views, the pursuit of getting validation in comments in the comment section become more than answering the call to courage. Don't allow that to become the priority and to become more important. Because the world can provide me and you so many things that can be a distraction to the more important thing that God wants us to focus on in our life. The world can do that. It does it through just our cell phone that we have, text messages, notifications, email alerts, who just posted their latest YouTube video. Distractions. The demands of people pulling on us, where people we know and people we don't know, because we're getting inundated with so many scam likely calls on our cell phones. They're all these things that's trying to pull us away from the more important thing, which is our relationship with God, our family, and answering the call to courage as men. And so today, I want to share this important message with you. The lessons that we can learn from the man with the red bandana who answered the call to courage on 9/11, who sacrificed and gave his life. Am I asking you to sacrifice and give your life? No. But I am asking you to look at your life and to see how you are putting others first before you. We see this demonstrated every day if you're a person who watches the news, when we hear how someone's home has been burned by fire and individuals had to be rescued from the fire. Firefighters don't run away from the danger, they run into the danger. It takes courage to do that. Many years ago, there was a movie, Fireproof, by the Kendricks brothers. I believe pastor or minister Priscilla Schreiber was one of the individuals on there. That's War Room. I'm sorry. Fireproof. Fireproof. Yes, it was an earlier movie of the Kendricks brothers, right after what was the Facing the Giants. That was like their first movie that they did, and then they did Fireproof. And the movie is about a gentleman who's having marital issues with his wife, and they're at the point where they are ready to end their marriage relationship and get a divorce. But because of having some of the right people around him on his job, the right friend on his job, his father, the importance of having a mentor, a father in your life that can speak to you through tough and difficult times and encourage you not to give up and not quit and throw in the towel and to take your hands off the wheel. He gave him a strategy over the next 30 days of to fight and to go after his marriage. He had gotten to a point before he made this decision to give up on his marriage, but yet he had the courage to run in a burning building, to go into difficult, dangerous situations to rescue someone in danger. But when it came to the person who was supposed to be the most important person in his life, his spouse, he was not willing to run into the danger of rescuing her and rescuing his marriage. He was ready to give up. He did not have the want to. Sometimes us as men, the reason why we don't answer the call to courage, we don't have the want to anymore. We've lost the want to. We see men losing the want to run into danger and to rescue those that are important to them. It's unfortunate and unfortunately tragic when you hear about a father who's lost his want to for life and understanding the importance and to protect and to watch over and to raise his son or daughter, his young child, and he leaves them in a car unattended with the windows up, and he's just so engrossed about what life is calling him to do, is asking him to do. He's lost all touch of reality, and he leaves his son in a car outside when it's 95 degrees, and inside that car it's triple digits. And if someone doesn't see that child in the right time to break that window or call local authorities to get access to that vehicle, that child ended up losing his life. We've heard too many stories of that, who are losing their want to embrace the responsibility of protecting and taking care of their son or daughter. Maybe you are not married and you have a relationship with the child's mother, and it's deteriorating to the point where it's become adversarial. But just because it's become adversarial doesn't mean you put the child's life at risk. And so you, as a father, you end up throwing that child into the river, and that child drowns because you wanted to get back at the mother. I'm not making this stuff up. This stuff is being reported on the news just about every week. Men are losing the want to be a devoted father. Men are losing the want to be a great husband. Now, when I say great, I'm not talking about greatness in the standpoint of accomplishments. I'm talking about great in terms of serving. Jesus said, if you're going to call yourself great, you have to be willing to allow that greatness to be demonstrated by your service and being a servant to others. I'm paraphrasing the scripture, but you're getting my point, what I'm saying. It takes courage to be able to say, I need help because I feel like I'm losing my want to. I'm so quick to want to run into a burning building and to rescue others who I have no relationship with, who no significance to, but just the simple fact because of the call to duty. But when it comes to my family, my home, I'm not willing to run into that burning building to rescue them. Maybe you may be the person who's causing the building to burn. Did you think of that? Did you think of that? Maybe you're the man who's causing the building to burn. Maybe you're the one who's causing the marriage to burn, the relationships with your son and daughters to deteriorate, where when they see you coming, they go into their room and they close the door and they won't come out because they don't want to talk to you. Maybe you're the one who's calling the building to burn. It takes courage to say, I need help as a man. It takes courage. Hey, if you're getting great value out of this episode of Man Talk Live, do me a favor, click that like button for me, hit that thumbs up, share this on your favorite social media platform. And if you're new to the Real Men Rising YouTube channel, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Click the alert notification button and be a part of the conversation of real men that are raising the standard of manhood, not just in their life today, but in the generations to come. As we bring this episode to a conclusion, as we wrap this up, as we bring the train into the station, we touched on quite a few things. We talked about the man with the red bandana and the importance to answering the call to courage. We've talked about the importance of not quitting and not letting go in the will, because we understand that there are people that are depending upon us, and it takes courage to hold on to the will. We talked about the importance that when the mantle of leadership and responsibility has been placed upon us, and we now have the charge to move people forward, it takes courage to do that. We've talked about the importance of holding on to our our fight back, to not be the one who's causing the fire, but being the one who's running into to save those that are important to us from the fire. And so wherever you are in this discussion this morning, I want you to reach out to someone who can provide you the counsel, the help that you need, so that you can be a great husband, a devoted father, and a man of integrity, and not leave those who care about you, who depend upon you, at risk in a burning fire. So that's the episode. If you've gotten great value, again, please let me know. Click that like button for me. Leave a comment in the comment section, especially if you are watching the replay. Are you answering the call to courage? Let me know how you're answering the call to courage as a husband, as a father, as a man. Let me know how you're answering the call to courage in the comment section. God bless.